And was there a teacher that made a difference in your life?
Oh, great question. So, what was I like at school? Well, I was painfully shy at school.
Okay. You would never
To
think that speaking to you now. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was painfully shy to the point where my mum and dad were going to be getting me into the doctor. They were that worried, about. I was the kid who got invited to birthday parties and just would be terrified at the idea and just would do anything to get out of going to a party
Right.
or that kind of thing. And so that was me through the whole of primary school. And when I got to secondary school, it links to the teacher actually, because I am that classic teacher story who had a teacher who literally changed their life. And I had a teacher, she was a Scottish teacher. Miss Marshall was her name. Um, and she was, strict, quite a strict teacher, funny, humorous. But, for Aberdeen, she was. And she's a really wonderful teacher. And she just said to me when I got into the school, right, who's going to play an instrument? And she said, Shane, you're going to play instrument. And I'm like, oh God, crikey. And I said, okay. Um, and I said, can I play a saxophone? She said, no, you're going to play the cornet. She told me that, and she gave me this cornet, and then created a space where she'd seen us. I was a shy person, and then all of a sudden, I had a space at lunchtime where I didn't need to feel the pressure of being out in the playground, where I could go into the music room and practice my instrument. And in that moment, I found other people who didn't much like talking to each other much, but were quite happy to run the bow over a violin or make a racket with a big tuba or whatever it was. And we played music together, and that formed my social confidence at school, and is where it transformed my ability because of a teacher who saw
Wow.
me, gave me an opportunity, and um, yeah, and then
Mm.
really I developed that confidence. I would have never thought, for example, I'd have been podcasting or keynote speaking or doing
Wow.
anything like that now. And yeah,
That-
that was pivotal.
That's really beautiful. And how did the teacher's classroom make you feel? How did it feel when you were in that space?
Oh, that is a good question. So I think that it was safety. I felt very safe in that space. Um, and I think it wasn't because it was a space where I could just do whatever I want. It was quite a strict space. Maybe that also helped. There was none of the bullies around, or I couldn't get, there was no people taking the mick. I was in a safe space with other people who were doing the same thing. So it was safety. I guess Amy Edmondson would say it was a psychologically safe space for us to just be,
Beautiful.
to make mistakes, to grow and to learn together.
I love that. And I've asked that question 265 times to every single guest that I've had. And from these educational researchers to everyday teachers to leaders to keynote speakers, and no one has ever mentioned content, which I think is really interesting. It's not a surprise, but it's a
Mm.
reminder, I think, that. I mean, the teacher that changed my life, Mrs. Jones, I had the privilege of interviewing her for the podcast, and um, I have no idea what this woman taught me. No idea. Like I currently supervise the age that I was in her class, so I knew there would have been some equilateral triangles or not narrative writing or ancient history in there. There would have been something, but I have no idea what this wonderful woman taught me. But I remember how a classroom felt. And every single person, like I said, that I've spoken to through the duration of this podcast has talked about what the learning environment felt like. And it's really wonderful. And even so, we're probably the same age, but so many years after school, it's really interesting to see your face light up and your voice almost get a little bit, dare I say, emotional talking about
Hmm.
that experience. It's incredibly beautiful, and I think it's a reminder of the amazing, amazing work that teachers do every day, and that content, while it's important to be content experts, kids aren't going to remember what you taught them. They're going to remember how they felt
Yeah.
when you walked through their door, which I think it's a really great reminder.